Tonight, the fallout after the group chat that exposed top American officials thinking ahead of military strikes. Top Democrats and Republicans demanding answers and calling for investigations as the White House tries to downplay the significance. The president standing by the national security advisor saying he's learned his lesson. But top intelligence officials face intense questions about the leak, discussing plans to attack Houthi positions in Yemen while a top editor was in the text thread. So how did such a messy lapse occur? Serious concerns about Social Security. The nominee for administrator grilled as Elon Musk calls it a Ponzi scheme. Can trillions in cuts be made without impacting payments to so many Americans? Our exclusive inside NATO's new deep-sea mission to fend off Russia from slashing critical cables that carry power, data, and a lifeline to Europe. Why officials in Costa Rica now say the son of former Yankee star Brett Gardner didn't die of asphyxiation while on vacation. What more parents are considering doing for their kids as measles cases rise. Seeing red over dyes in food, the first state to ban more than 7 of them, and why 20 more states aren't far behind. And all the pretty horses, how actor Daryl and her miniature pals are making a big impression.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. President Trump is downplaying the security breach that inadvertently let a journalist in on a group text thread where that reporter says imminent military attack plans were discussed among top administration officials. The White House line echoed at a contentious Senate Intelligence Committee hearing today where the nation's top intelligence figures argued the chats were not classified, despite the fact the reporter says American airstrikes against Houthis in Yemen played out as were discussed. The text thread using the encrypted commercial app Signal exposed by the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine, who was accidentally added to the chat by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Tonight, the president standing by Waltz amid a growing Democratic uproar, some calling for firings. Peter Alexander is covering that story for us tonight.
Tonight from Democrats' disbelief and dismay.
This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error.
As they grilled top Trump national security officials about that blunder where a reporter was mistakenly added to an encrypted group chat about what the reporter says were upcoming military operations.
You have to learn from every experience.
While President Trump is defending his national security advisor, Mike Waltz, who the reporter says added him to that group chat.
Does he need to apologize?
No, I don't think he should apologize. I think he's doing his best.
The Atlantic's editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg says among the officials on that chat, the Vice President, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, discussing plans for an attack on the Houthis in Yemen. At today's pre-scheduled hearing on global threats, both Gabbard and Ratcliffe repeatedly denied any of the information shared was classified.
My communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Democrat Mark Warner arguing if there was no classified information, they should share all of the texts.
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then if there was no classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security.
Goldberg reported that 2 hours before the U.S. strikes on the Houthis, Hegseth texted information about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and attack sequencing.
Did this conversation at some point include information on weapons packages, targets, or timing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Director Gabbard, same question.
Same answer, and defer to the Department of Defense on that question.
Former national security officials say details of planned military operations, including times, targets, and weapons, are by definition classified. Ratcliffe says Signal, the encrypted commercial app the officials used, is loaded on most CIA computers.
One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration.
The president tonight downplaying the incident.
The main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. It was, I guess, from what I understand, took place during, and it wasn't classified information.
While asking Waltz to investigate the chat he led.
We are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room.
Earlier, Hegseth disputed Goldberg's reporting.
Nobody was texting war plans.
That's a lie. He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans.
Today, Goldberg saying he might go public with more of the texts.
We take national security information seriously. And maybe in the coming days, I'll be able to let you know.
Some top Trump allies are criticizing the episode.
I do think it was incredibly sloppy. But that being said, I think it was a mistake.
But also defending the administration.
I can promise you this, when moms and dads lie down to sleep at night in camp, this isn't on their list. This isn't on their list. Somebody made a mistake. It happens.
Democrats tonight are calling for an investigation.
This sloppiness, this incompetence, this disrespect for our intelligence agencies and the personnel who work for them is entirely unacceptable.
And Peter, we understand the Senate's top Republican is now weighing in on this.
Lester, Senator John Thune says mistakes were made, that they want to make sure they do not happen again. And he adds that there will likely be a Senate hearing on that leaked group chat. Notably late tonight, the top House Democrat says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth should be fired. Lester.
All right, Peter, thank you. On Capitol Hill, the Senate held a confirmation hearing for President Trump's nominee to lead the Social Security Administration. The agency is facing deep cuts, and many Americans are worried that could impact their benefits. Here's Ryan Nobles.
Denise Parashak is a 70-year-old retired nurse from Pennsylvania who relies every day on her check from Social Security.
It's just something that we always counted on.
She's one of millions of Americans who paid into the system and now worries about the impact of potential changes from President Trump and Elon Musk.
Just looking at being able to provide 3 basic meals for ourselves, because if Social Security were eliminated, I mean, it's just, I can't even think about how terrible that would be.
Musk has openly attacked Social Security.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Enter Frank Bisignano, the former CEO of the financial services company FistServe, tapped by Trump to run the program. Today, promising no one's benefits will be impacted despite planned staffing cuts and office closures.
Are you willing to commit right now that you will put enough people back to work so they can do the job of delivering the benefits that Americans earned?
I will commit,
yes or no?
I will commit to have the right staffing to get the job done.
Congressional Republicans are on a mission to cut as much as $2 trillion in federal spending, a task that won't be easy without impacting programs like Social Security. Some expressing their fears at fiery town halls across America.
100% untrue.
Republicans insist they plan to focus on potential waste, fraud, and abuse and hope to automate some services.
I don't think there's a business in the private sector that's probably operating with an antiquated type of IT system that government agencies are. Why can't we upgrade those?
But for seniors like Denise, abrupt, tech-savvy changes could be a huge challenge.
Social Security and Medicare should never be on the chopping block at all.
And there are reports of the agency's website crashing and long waits for help on the phone. A 2024 survey revealed that 72% of Americans worry Social Security could run out of funding in their lifetime. Lester?
All right, Ryan, thank you. Tonight, West Virginia has become the first state to completely ban foods that contain artificial food dyes, acting on concern that the dyes pose a health risk. With more on that, here's NBC's Tom Costello.
They're found in everything from chips and candies to baked goods, breakfast cereals, fruit juices, even medications. For decades, researchers have warned that artificial dyes can lead to serious behavioral issues in children. While not universally accepted, West Virginia has now become the first state to ban 7 artificial dyes and 2 preservatives. In schools this year, statewide in 2028, the governor writing West Virginia ranks at the bottom of many public health metrics, which is why there's no better place to lead the Make America Healthy Again mission. Marissa Salon is now weaning her 6-year-old off artificial dyes.
I would see him bouncing off the walls and just acting way out of his character, throwing huge temper tantrums and just not being able to control himself and being able to calm down after he would eat those foods.
The EU, Australia, and Japan already ban or regulate artificial dyes. The FDA banned red dye number 3 in January. A food industry trade group says West Virginians will have less access to affordable, nutritious, and convenient food and beverage choices. Meanwhile, more than 20 other states are considering similar bans. California already bans dyes in school meals. NYU nutrition expert Marion Nessel.
These dyes are there for cosmetic purposes. They don't have a health or a safety purpose. And public health advocates have wanted to get rid of them for decades.
Researchers say the evidence isn't concrete because it's unethical to test something on children when you already believe it will hurt them. Lester?
Tom Costello, thank you. Tonight, the White House says Ukraine and Russia have agreed to stop all attacks in the Black Sea, part of President Trump's efforts for a larger ceasefire to end the war. All as we have an exclusive look tonight inside a NATO training mission to defend against potential Russian attacks underwater. Here's Raf Sanchez.
On the icy waters of the Baltic Sea, NATO warships are playing a game of cat and mouse, where the rules are murky and the stakes are high. This was a training exercise. Their real mission, stopping alleged Russian sabotage attacks on undersea cables that supply power and data to Europe. As tonight, the White House says Ukraine and Russia have agreed to a ceasefire at sea as part of U.S. efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Last week, we embarked with NATO Naval Patrol Baltic Sentry.
Just to give you a sense of how complicated this waterway is, we're departing from the northern coast of Poland, a NATO ally, but just a couple of miles that way is the Russian territory of Kaliningrad. Above the surface, you have merchant vessels, you have military ships like this one, but below the water, you have those critical undersea cables.
On Christmas Day, this tanker set sail from Russia, crossing the Baltic but dragging its anchor on the seabed, slashing 4 underwater cables, according to Finland, until commandos boarded the ship and arrested the crew.
An anchor is not made to drag above over the seabed.
So, in your judgment, could this have been an accident?
Not at my ship.
Russia denies involvement, but Finland says the ship is likely part of the Shadow Fleet, merchant craft operating under orders from the Kremlin. NATO now deploying underwater drones to check cables for signs of damage. It comes as President Trump has said Europe needs to spend more on its own defense instead of relying on the U.S.
In some ways, this mission is exactly the model that the Trump administration wants. All the ships here are European. And you feel you can still rely on the United States?
I do, I absolutely do. We are still NATO.
These uncertain waters, now the front lines of a shadowy conflict. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, the Baltic Sea.
In 60 seconds, with a rising concern among parents about what to do with their infants as measles cases continue to grow. Next. As measles outbreaks are being reported around the country, in Texas, the number of cases has ballooned to nearly 330 since January. Emily Aketa now with how to make sure the youngest children are kept safe and another important health alert.
You want more raspberries? Don Gibson and Carlia Suba have been looking forward to their first vacation as a family of 4 next month until mounting measles cases thwarted their plans to attend a wedding in Texas, where the health department today announced infections climbed to 327.
It's just one more thing we have to worry about as parents.
They don't feel comfortable flying from California with 4-month-old Kai, too young to get the MMR vaccine.
What was the tipping point for you guys?
Yeah, the cases sadly kept growing. They were showing up in different states. We just kind of had that anxiety, is like, is this going away?
That anxiety is shared by parents across the country, with measles cases now confirmed in 19 states, including New York, where Dr. Sophia Jan is a pediatrician.
Are you hearing concern from parents here in New York?
Absolutely. They are worried about what happens if they travel. They are worried about travelers coming to New York.
The CDC recommends children get a first dose of the measles vaccine between 12 and 15 months, and the second between 4 and 6 years. But more pediatricians are encouraging an extra earlier dose at 6 months, not just ahead of international travel, but now in some instances ahead of domestic trips or in areas with emerging cases. Dr. Jan says it's important to talk to your doctor.
We are in a new era of the fight against measles.
Measles is one of the most contagious viruses in the world and can live in the air for 2 hours. Back in California, Kai's family is pressing pause on travel until he can get the shot.
It's just so contagious that we don't want to take any unnecessary risks.
Emily is here. Typically, I know the second dose of the MMR vaccine is given between 4 and 6. Is there some flexibility in that timing?
So the CDC says children can receive that second dose earlier, so long as it comes at least 28 days after the first shot. Doctors will help weigh whether that is appropriate. And Lester, 2 doses of this vaccine, 97% effective.
All right, Emily, thanks for that. We're back in a moment with new details of the death of Brett Gardner's teen son. Plus, the attempted murder case in Hawaii. The doctor arrested, accused of pushing his wife off a lookout spot. Next. New developments tonight of the death of an American teenager in Costa Rica. Former Yankees star Brett Gardner says his 14-year-old son got sick and died in his sleep during a family vacation in Costa Rica. Authorities there tonight reversing a preliminary cause of death, saying his airway was not obstructed as previously suspected. Official autopsy results are pending. Tonight, Hawaii officials have arrested a Maui doctor who allegedly tried to kill his wife on a Hawaiian hiking trail. NBC's Marissa Parra with late details.
Tonight, a dreamy, picture-perfect landscape in Hawaii, the backdrop to a nightmare, after police say a doctor violently attacked his own wife, pushing her off a cliff. Honolulu police say Gerhard Koenig was hiking the Pali Trail in Oahu with his wife, Ariel Koenig, when he struck her in the head with a rock and tried to push her off the ledge. Police say the attack happened around 10 a.m. on Monday when the couple was visiting the tourist site located just outside Honolulu. She was taken to a local hospital with multiple injuries to the head and face, where police say she remains in critical condition. Soon after, police released this smiling photo of Koenig, an anesthesiologist in Maui, alerting hikers of a suspect on the run.
I did see a helicopter fly along the mountains over behind here. It was flying pretty close to the mountains.
After a day-long manhunt, Hawaii police confirmed they arrested Koenig after chasing him on foot. Maui Health released a statement saying after being made aware of the allegations against Dr. Koenig, he was suspended from the medical staff pending investigation. The hospital adding they take concerns and the safety of its patients very seriously and will cooperate with authorities as appropriate. Tonight, he's being held behind bars and criminal charges are pending. Marissa Parra, NBC News.
When we come back, a story not to be missed. We catch up with actor Daryl Hannah and the good news tonight about her 2 miniature horses forming a stable bond with seniors. Now to some body cam footage of an unusual suspect. Officers in Ohio in hot pursuit of a goat, really. The Akron Police Department responded to the scene earlier this month after receiving calls about a highway disturbance. Officers chased the goat while it ran through traffic and darted in front of cars before being safely captured. The goat was taken to a local hospital and named Fugitive. Finally, there's good news tonight. Actress Daryl Hannah and her 2 furry friends improving quality of life for seniors. Our Steve Patterson has that story.
All right, guys.
If unbridled joy had its own distinct rhythm, folks here might say it sounds something like this.
You're cute.
Meet Ziggy and Romeo. By far, this pair of mini horses are the 2 biggest stars ever to trot through Senior Concerns Adult Daycare, offering plenty of pets and lots of unconditional love.
You are my best friend.
And folks here aren't afraid to admit they need it.
This is fantastic for me.
Truth is, many come to the daycare suffering from the maladies of a lifelong march. Things like Alzheimer's and dementia, or loneliness only makes things worse.
Social isolation for older adults is incredibly damaging. We see amazing benefits to socialization for people with dementia.
It's your friend.
And if that cowgirl handler looks a little familiar, that's because it's actress Daryl, completely off script, cast in a role she's come to adore, caregiver.
It's really moving. Like, I actually, the first couple of times we came, I just was in tears because some of the people actually cried. People had their memories come back to them. They talk about when they had horses in World War II, or they had a mule when they were a little boy.
Daryl has been coming to the daycare for nearly a year now.
They just told us today, like, they're like, this is the highlight of everyone's month when you come here. It's so
that must feel
beautiful.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
Folks like Mike say these are the best days.
You're playing with the animals and your mind is going. You're smiling. You're having a good day.
Showing up, sharing love.
Yeah.
Give me a kiss.
Sometimes the best care is the simple act of being there.
Aww. Oh, look, he's smiling.
Steve Patterson, NBC News, Thousand Oaks, California.
And that is Nightly News for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night.
I get so excited. Yes, you do.
It's a nice month.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.